There we go. In the end, when the doves come flying in the street, oh, dinners and dine are done, and we're lying here. Will it be time? Hey, fall after the war done again. What can we give each other but a break from all this running around? And will there still be too many animals for the crowd? Recall when we heard the German whippers, so we filled the houses with smoke and pulled the teeth out one by one as the shepherd came. The swelling guns they suck, still suck. Sound we hope would perish slowly. Force it, come straight down the throat. It will arrive to the closest exit. Then mom would do the muck. Then stood back and shook our heads at the sorry state they're in. Those wolves, they make great customers, provided they're occasionally weak. A pop or quarter, the clock or dollar, it's an unnecessary door. A chair to sit in and some kind of echo before the ceiling runs a foul. Will there still be too many crickets to let this house stay silent? Will there still be too many animals to end the war? Will there still be too many animals after the war?
Yay!
Well, welcome to Mazecast. This is episode number 135. I'm Ben Heaton, and I'm joined by Greg, who you just heard playing his latest song, and Sarah, who I believe did not bring a guitar tonight.
I did not.
All right. Well, we have a lot planned for tonight's episode, so I'd like to dive right into our first segment, which is one that I like to call Gazing into the Abyss. In this segment, of course, I will be looking at recent comments on Into the Abyss, which is a prominent Maze fan site run by White Raven. It has a great community, a lot of us met there, and I think it's important for our listeners to be kept up to date about the latest goings-on in Into the Abyss. Now, a few days ago, Sarah here, or Aria, if I may use your abyssal name,
You may.
you actually got a puzzle point or a solve meter thing or something for room 11. You noted that the sign in that room is square and that the T going through it has kind of a circular cross-section at the top. And I didn't really read closely enough to know how that's a solution, but I'm told that is, and that's pretty cool.
Thanks, Ben. I can elaborate a little bit.
Well, we might have time to get into that later. There are
Okay.
many other recent comments that we're going to need to cover tonight.
Okay.
Another one is on the page for the solution to the riddle of the path, telling you the route through the maze. One commenter, Melinda, said that she had been puzzling over the path to room 45 ever since I was 17 years old in 1985. I turned the page upside down many times and noticed the numbers, yet I've never noticed the door. Thank you. White Raven's reply to that was, glad we could help, a sentiment that I think we all echo. This seems to me like a fine example of the Maze community and, in particular, White Raven's website functioning exactly as intended. Now, the third thing, which I know you've all been expecting that I'll get around to, is that a round of voting has broken out about what hint White Raven will reveal next. As you may know, White Raven likes to give out hints for some of the rooms that he feels have not been completely solved by the community at large yet. And I guess some people decide to start voting on which room he would give a hint for next. Now, there's no promise from White Raven that the results of this vote will be followed or mean anything, and also apparently you can vote for multiple rooms if you want, and As of this recording, it's like a 12-way tie with nobody agreeing on which room to vote for. So we'll see how that goes. I look forward to getting some sort of hint, maybe corresponding to the votes.
Do you have handy like what the 12 rooms are?
Actually, yes, I do. I can give you some up-to-the-mid election coverage. Right now, leading the hint election is a tie between Room 5, Room 11, Room 13, Room 16, Room 18, Room 19, Room 25, Room 27, that one is the one I voted for, just to divulge that potential conflict of interest right up front, Room 31, Room 32, Room 36, Room 39, and Room 44. All other rooms having 0 votes. So it's really still anybody's race. If you want to get out there and start campaigning for your choice of room, you could make a difference.
It's only 2
I
days.
haven't voted, so I could vote for 27 for you since you're doing such a great job hosting.
Well, let's reserve that until the end of this episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There's still time for this to go badly. So that's about it for Gazing into the Abyss. And next up is a segment that we've decided to call Guess the Next Hint. In this segment, Sarah, what are we doing here exactly?
What a great segue, Ben, from,
Thank
that really worked out well.
Speaking of segments,
What we're going to do is, based on absolutely no information, I'll just place our bets on what the next hint will be, and then in the next Mazecast we can check and see whether our predictions were correct in accordance with the scientific method. So, do you have any guesses as to what the next hint will be, Ben?
well, let's see. My guess is that the next hint will be there are 2 objects in this room. One of them rhymes with something not in this room. The other rhymes with something else in this room. They have another thing in common, though. Can you guess what it is?
Wow, that is a very specific guess, Ben.
Yeah, I have no idea what room that's going to be for.
I'm impressed. See, I went the other route. I just thought, oh, I'll just guess what room it's going to be, which makes it kind of similar to what's going on with the voting anyway. What I really hope it's going to be is that he's going to have found some wonderful word that is spelled in the branches of the tree in room 31. This is what I am really hoping to see. The longer the word, the better. So that's what my vote is for what I hope the next hint will be.
Yeah, that's an intriguing room. It's the bone tree.
Yeah, the bone tree room.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff that kind of looks like letters, and I feel like it's possible White Raven has found a word in there.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to know what it is.
All right.
Do you have any thoughts, Greg?
Yeah, what do you think the next
hint?
Yeah, remember, this is the hint coming from White Raven, specifically.
Right. So I should say that I haven't gone on into the Abyss in probably about a year now. But I'm going to guess that the next hint has to do with colors.
Okay.
And it has to do with chakras.
Mm.
And maybe something to do with weather patterns.
Oh,
I like that. We haven't seen much to do with chakras in the known solutions so far, so that's certainly a right vein.
Seems like those are new doors to open.
Yeah.
it'd be great to see something with weather patterns as well, because there's a lot of weather in the maze, but not a lot of solutions that have to do specifically with weather.
Yeah, there's definitely something going on with weather. There is weather in this book.
Okay. What's our next segment? Wow, this says, I'm really excited about this next segment.
Yeah, so am I. I'm going to be discussing maze software.
Ooh.
So it's hard to talk about the history of maze solutions without talking about the technological advances that have made those solutions possible. From Usenet to web forums to video calls to neural networks, maze has always been at the cutting edge. I think we're very fortunate to be living in this, the computer age, which is a time when programs are every day giving us new ways of looking at maze. And I've chosen 3 of the most recent programs to highlight tonight in a segment that I'm calling CyberMaze Roundup.
CyberMaze Roundup!
That's great.
Alright, now the first of these, Maze Advisor, was created by Nick H., whose comments you may have seen on Into the Abyss lately if you've been following that site. It's an up-and-coming commenter there. And he's created a new interface for structural information about Maze. So we'll have links to all of these in the video description on YouTube, so you can just click there if you're watching this after the fact. I'll describe this application. It's sort of a website. You click on a room number on it, and it gives you a results page that tells you whether that room is in the path, loop, or trap, and some of the important routes from that room or to that room. Like if you pick a room that turns out to be in the loop, it tells you the shortest path from that room back to the path. If you're on the path, it tells you the shortest route to room 45 or room 1, depending on which part of the path you're on, that kind of thing. It's an interesting sort of alternate way of visualizing some of the information about Maze. And I rate this 4 out of 5 floppy disks. The second piece of software I wanted to bring up is something created by our very own Barry. It's a very ambitious project, more so than any of the ones that I'll be highlighting here. It's sort of an alternate view of Maze, but the entirety of Maze as a book. It recaptures the experience of reading the book, but on a website, which I know what you're thinking, that's been done before. There are a lot of websites out there with like pictures of pages from Maze. Some of them even you can click doors and go to the linked pages. This one is much truer to the book experience than anything I've seen online, though. Because not only does it have the clickable doors to go to places, as you would expect, it also lets you just click on numbers underneath that to go to whatever page number you want, which this is something that didn't seem odd to me until it was pointed out by Barry, the author of this program. Maze software doesn't usually have that feature, but when you're looking at the actual book, you do have that feature. If you're looking at page 28 and you want to see what's on page 10, you can do that. You can just turn to page 10 and check that out. And this is something that, in fact, we often do while reading Maze. It's an important function. It's certainly something that Manson knew would be part of how people experience Maze. And now there's a good digital interface to Maze that incorporates that feature. And also, I should point out the art he has on this is, in fact, his redrawn charcoal drawings of the rooms, which I really love. I think we all do. I think, in many ways, this is superior to reading Maze in paper.
Has he done every room now?
I believe so.
Wow. I really got to check out this site. I can't wait to click that hot link at the bottom of the YouTube video. This is the first I'm hearing of this. I did not know.
Oh, wow.
Oh, you'll love it. Now, the third program I wanted to mention is, well, full disclosure, I wrote this program, but I think even if I hadn't, I would be just as impressed with it. I call it Maze Bird Finder, and this is a very specialized program. It's, in many ways, the opposite of Barry's project, which tries to incorporate every aspect of Maze. With Maze Bird Finder, I focus in on just whether there is a bird in a room. This program has a very simple, easy-to-use interface where you can enter whatever room number you want, and then the results page will tell you whether there's a bird in that room. Now, not only that, I've added some special features to it. It also tells you whether there's a picture of a bird in a room, or in some cases, a toy bird. So if you're doing some sort of bird finding project where you need it to be an actual bird, you don't want false positives from just a toy bird, Maze Bird Finder has you covered. Now, I do
use the bird finder, and I have enjoyed it immensely. It's been very useful to me. Thank you.
Yes, I think anybody listening to this who hasn't checked it out yet, one try and you'll never want to go back to old-fashioned paper bird finding. I rate my own program 4 out of 5 floppy disks. I don't want to.
Whoa.
I feel it's appropriate, given the potential conflict of interest here, that I be modest and err on the low end of what this program can do.
Now, Ben, what was the rating that you gave for Barry's app?
Oh, did I forget to read that one out? Yeah, I rate Barry's Maze interface 4 out of 5 floppy disks.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that's about it in the world of Maze software, but check back next week. There's sure to be many more.
Okay, thanks, Ben.
Welcome.
The next segment we had planned somehow got named Sarah's Meaty segment, which is kind of a strange title.
Okay.
But what it actually means is that we're going to talk about something that came up because of a hint a few months ago on the Abyss, which is in room 21, where the clue from the wrench and the snakes and the bird was turn around, which was pretty interesting, and people kind of like this hint and the solution because it was something a little bit new.
Yeah, which I liked a lot. Anyway,
Yeah.
was it turn around or turn back?
I think it was turn around.
Okay.
But you're not given the option to turn back in this room.
Exactly. Well, that's what's interesting here.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of breaks the
metatext
wall of the... Yeah.
It's not telling you what move the guests should make in the maze. It's telling you, as the reader, you made the wrong choice here, you should turn back.
Uh-huh.
It's like turn back as a synonym for you just went through a wrong door.
Right.
It works if you came in from... You can simply turn back if you came in from 44 or from 31.
Oh, okay.
Right? So if you came in from those doors, you're good. But if you come in from the path, you can't.
Which I think is the most likely way to get here.
Right. But it's supposed to tell you that something has gone wrong. And people were making comparisons to the no escape sign, which isn't particularly helpful to you, but is a good indicator of what's going on once you get to the no escape room.
Yeah, and I'm excited about that. I think there might be many more messages like this in Maze.
Yeah, so we had a little flurry of trying to find some of those.
What are some of the best ones we found?
Well, my favorite was room 31, the tree room. Well, this is one of my favorites. It was room 31, the tree room, which I thought looked like a dead end. It's a dead tree. The room itself kind of ends in a point, so it's like it's tapering to a point. A dead end sign is a diamond shape like that. I don't know. There wasn't really enough to make it particularly solid, but it just kind of feels like a dead end room. And with the dead tree, it kind of worked for me. The other one that was good that Vince found was the in room 19.
Mm-hmm.
The one with the easel back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I remember there was some confusion there about whether that actually is a drawing board, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion about whether an easel could sort of be alternately called a drawing board, or whether that was too big of a stretch, because a drawing board is really more like a drafting table that an architect might use. But I feel like, you have a giant back there. The statue's got his back to you. You see the back of the drawing board. I don't know. I kind of like it, and I also like that it mirrors the drawing board in room 1.
Yeah.
What do you think, Greg?
Yeah, that's tough. There's always a question about whether or not it's like a clue you would actually use, or whether you're just trying to figure out what was intended in putting it there in the first place.
Yeah, I think we're going entirely for Manson's intent at this point, because from a practical point of view, somebody picking up this book and trying to find the path through, they're not using any of this stuff. They're just
Right.
writing out all the possible routes, finding the one, and then they've got that part of it done.
Right. So
Nobody is actually solving Maze with anything that we're discussing ever.
yeah. Right. You're right. So intention-wise, I would say maybe. I don't know. Like I don't think it's like really convincing either way.
That's kind of the problem with everything, because
Occasionally you get something that seems a little more solid. I'm not saying it's bad or good.
I mean, the nice thing about turnaround is that, you do pretty convincingly have three things that are turning one way or another. So it's the repetition that makes it more convincing.
There's only three things in that really stand out as like puzzle objects scattered in here to convey a message.
Yeah.
I guess there's the topiary, but that fits into the scenery of the room much more.
Right. I don't know. I was looking at the rooms that have outlets and plugs and things, and just thinking, is no outlet a possible message? Like room 7, for example, where it is really a dead end. There's like a little triangular dead end there, but that doesn't work very well because there actually is an outlet. So
Yeah.
it's not a great way to clue no outlet.
It'd be like one available outlet.
It's hard for them to be notable for not having an outlet. I mean, I guess you have a bunch of loose plugs there and nothing for them to plug into.
Yeah, that would be that was Vincent's suggestion for how to do it. Like a microwave and somebody going.
Yeah.
Not very mazy.
Yeah.
So what I was actually tasked with doing in this segment was looking at all the loop rooms that are accessible from the path and seeing if maybe there was some kind of commonality to those rooms where if you landed in them, there was something in there that would tell you, oh, you've gone off the path.
Like something indicating them as a group, like, oh, it's one of the rooms with the whatever feature. I've gone the wrong way.
Yeah, either that or if they all had something that somehow indicated you've made a mistake, even if it's something different in every room, even if it's not the same thing. I don't know. I've made a list of the rooms on the loop that are accessible from the path, and there's actually a lot of them. There's only a few that are not. So the ones that are accessible are 3, 10, 16, 19, 21, 25, 27, 31, 33, 34, 35, 36, 41, and 44. There's a lot.
That was 14 of them?
Maybe. I can count them. There are only 5 that aren't.
Okay, so this doesn't actually narrow down things much for places to look for these messages.
It doesn't. I mean, if we want to go by what White Raven is, and I didn't, I was sort of thinking, maybe because I was thinking of 25, right, where you see the fallen sign,
Mm-hmm.
and you see the back of the sign, and, there were a few other places where you see the backs of things, and I thought, well, maybe the back is, like, a common thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it's hard to draw a room full of stuff without showing, I don't know. That didn't go anywhere. What White Raven said was, when he was talking about the turnaround solution, he said, this solution works as a deterrent to entering the trap, because there's the door to room 24 and 21. And he says, every room that enters to the trap, which is in the loop, has a deterrent or warning of this kind to avoid the trap. And there are only 4 of those rooms. 21, which we'd already talked about. 19, which is the room with the big statue in Manson.
Sure.
14, which is like the mouse hole room. And 41. So I guess, 41 has got the fly trap with, the frog, and that's a pretty obvious deterrent. I don't know what he's talking about in 19. I don't really know what he's talking about in 14. So those are 2 avenues that may be worthwhile to explore. I don't know.
Well, 19 you already identified. There's the statue turning its back to you, right?
Yeah, if that's what he's talking about. Although, we've posted that in the Abyss and he didn't respond to it, so obviously he has something else in mind.
And 14 is the other one? Well,
Yeah.
14 has them, the solution kind of tells you that. Because that one, the solution is just to go back where you came from, right?
Right, all the
The way
solutions.
in there is through 10.
Yeah.
And the visitors don't go out into the room. They just stay in the doorway.
Right.
Oh,
And then they go back. Turning around, it even says turning around there. So if they all have some sort of turning around, I think that kind of goes with what you were thinking for the original 14, but you just need to limit it to these 4.
Yeah.
So maybe those 4 all have a turning around. So
If-
21, 19,
the funny
14.
thing is-
What's
Sorry.
the other one? I'm sorry. What? 21, 19, 14. What's the final of the 4? That
41.
41.
And 41 actually, it has, both 41 and 14 have the bullseye, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 41, I'm not seeing an explicit turning around thing there. But I guess there's probably another clue. So maybe, oh, well, there's a turning trumpet, but then I think that's kind of a reaching.
And we have a bunch of brass instruments in there in various shapes. It's hard to pick out one of them as systemically
Yeah,
named.
that's not useful.
Yeah, I don't know. The picture with the frog and the fly is probably the closest to an indicator of danger. And I do like here how it's actually a real fly. It's not part of the picture.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure how that applies. Well, I don't know. Maybe it means you, the actual human, are in danger of being tricked by this paper book.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I know that might be a bit of a stretch, but you see what I'm going for there.
You know, this is completely off topic, but I would really like 41 to have like a dangerous plants theme to it. I'm sure it's not there. It's one of those things that I've just manufactured, but like you have sort of a fly trap, so maybe it's a Venus flytrap. You have doll's eyes, which are a poisonous plant that's common in North America.
Mushrooms.
And then there's mushrooms, which many of them are poisonous as well.
But they're not technically a plant.
No.
That's true. But would Manson think they're a plant?
You might.
Is he concerned about taxonomy?
It's a good question. We should. Well, that's another thing to put in the Ask Manson list.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Is a plant, Manson?
The anxiously awaited Ask Manson. Yeah.
All right, so it's about time to move on to our next section, which is the Random Room Challenge.
Ooh.
Now, in case some of our listeners have forgotten the rules of the Random Room Challenge, this is where
I've never done it.
our listeners might have seen future episodes before this one if they're watching our archives out of order.
Good point.
So the way this works is we pick a random number from 1 to 45, and then we all spend 5 minutes trying to figure out some new thing about that room.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, and Sarah, I believe you have the 45-side die or whatever it is we're using.
I have I actually, for a past blog post, I set up a random room generator. Hang on, I just have to find it. Sorry, guys. It's in my bingo post if anyone would like to check it out.
Your bingo?
Bingo. Yes.
I'm going to check that out right now.
Mazecast Bingo.
Classic.
It's a fun way to enjoy Mazecast with your friends. Okay, here we go.
Oh, yeah. I remember
Here we go. Okay, so I've got the... Oh, no, that's not it. Sorry. La, la, la. A little slow here, guys. Sorry. Here we go. Okay. Random number generator. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Should I screen share this?
Yeah.
I mean, you could just tell us the number.
No, she could be cheating.
Screen sharing is
That's true, yeah, screen share it. We need this to be fair.
Yeah.
crap. Now I have to figure out how to do that. I can't remember.
You just click on something.
In the thing.
Here we go. Here we go.
I'm waiting.
Technology.
There we go. Random.org. Yeah, that's what I would use.
All right, so random number is 2.
So that's Well, let's just do it again because
Yeah, you could
you
see
can observe
that.
it in action.
I want to see you actually click it.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Ready.
4.
4. Okay.
War. Tricky.
Oh wow, this room has a lot of doors in it.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, this room has had a lot of going over.
Yeah, people have picked over that maze sign on the right pretty thoroughly for hidden letters.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you something about room 4 that I think has been mentioned before, but it's not sort of listed as an official solution, but I think it's kind of cool, which is that 29 and 15 added together give you 44.
Okay.
So
What about with the door numbers on the other side? Do those? No, 24 plus 16,
no,
40.
they don't connect. But I mean, those you're not supposed to take those doors, right? So,
Okay.
Yeah,
so
you take
it's
29 or 15 depending on context. So
And this is clued by the 11 in the middle, which looks like an equal sign.
yeah. Right.
well, I think it's an alternative way of interpreting the little nuts and bolts, like the square peg round hole thing, because it's almost like, oh, put two things together.
Okay.
So you add those two things together to get, I don't know, it's not very good, but it's kind of, I don't know, I just find it kind of interesting that you have an addition thing, a thing showing two things being added together on 44, and those are the two correct rooms that you have to add together.
Yeah.
It could be a coincidence, but I think it's interesting.
Has anyone? So I'm kind of out of the loop,
So to speak.
yeah, so to speak. Has anyone talked about how a small cat is a kitten, and there's that it thing in the
I've
room?
not thought about the kitten connection, actually. That's
Wow, I don't think anyone's mentioned that.
Yeah.
That's something, because that's it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not a word ending in it like the things clued in the art, but
Right.
I like that.
You have a it
People
in
said
you
the
could call
skull.
it a kit, right?
a kit. Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
A kit is something to be had that will be had again. Is that the way it's phrased?
Has been done before and will be done again.
A kit has been done and will be done again. Okay. Yeah.
It is the name of the person who wrote Masquerade,
That's true.
similar to Maze. Can
Um,
you give me a name for Christopher?
The other thing I like in here that no one else will like, I'm sure, because it's
I
a
hate
very
it.
long thing.
Now with that kind of lead up, I'm gonna hate it now.
Just lowering your expectations. So you have the starry sky on top, and then the sun, but the guide tells you to ignore the sun. Okay, so the starry sky, which gives you Asterion, which is the name of the Minotaur, and you have the 11, which also looks like a 2 in Roman numerals, and the Minotaur is Asterion the second.
Oh.
Huh. Like
Okay.
that.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't have a strong visceral reaction about that.
Either way.
Yeah. No. I think yeah, that's interesting.
I feel like there's a lot of things where if the guide does turn out to be the Minotaur, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think it's basically settled at this point that the guide is the Minotaur.
Right. Oh, I still want to know.
Right, well, I haven't actually been timing us on this segment, but I think it's probably been about 5 minutes, and I think we've found some new things in that room.
That
So,
was surprising.
it's
I didn't think
a
we would.
success.
Yeah.
Our next segment is Sarah's favorite room.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Now, so Sarah, you've said that you're going to tell us what your favorite room in Maze is, and the way this works is after she has told us, then Greg and I will discuss why the room she picks is not a very good room.
Oh, great.
Now, the rules are while Sarah is telling us which room is her favorite, the rest of us are not allowed to talk. While the rest of us are talking about why it's a bad room, Sarah is not allowed to talk.
Whoa.
And now, this segment is not necessarily Sarah-specific. We'll be rotating this through all the Maze casters over the coming episodes. But Sarah has volunteered to go first, and I'll turn the floor over to you.
So brave. Okay, I'm going to screen share. As soon as I figure out how to do that again. Oops.
Just click that thing.
I know, now I've lost it.
Greg, we shouldn't talk.
What's that?
Greg, we shouldn't talk.
Oh, well, she hasn't screen shared yet.
I know, I'm going.
Sorry.
Okay, hang on. Entire screen. There we go. Here we go. Okay, share. All right, so my favorite room. Can you see that? Is that working?
I see it.
Okay.
You've given yourself video focus, or however that works.
Click on your thing to make that the thing.
Oh, yeah. Good idea. There we go. Okay. Okay, so my favorite room in Maze is room 35. Oops. Can you see that? Is that showing? Oh, you're not allowed to talk. Okay. My favorite room is room 35. The reason for that is because when I first saw Maze as a kid, there was a long space between that and when I picked up Maze again. And the thing that I remembered most was this particular room. And the reason I think I like it so much is just because it's very creepy. The thing in the middle is very creepy. I like the strong effects of light and shadow. I like the way it looks. I just like the way that hello? I like the way that normal objects in the room take on sort of a menacing aspect, like just a broken couch and the ladder in the doorway, and you know, the cushion in the doorway of 33, and just a suit hanging on the wall. These are just kind of normal things, but they all take on some kind of mysterious meaning. Recently, we solved this room, at least according to White Raven, and discovered that it has lots of clues for which doors to take in the loop as you try to get out of the loop, which some people like and some people don't, predictably. But I was worried this might make me like this room less because it would take away some of the mystery. However, I still find it to be my favorite room. The end.
So we're talking about why this is not a great room, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, one, the room, I think, so, you know, to be the advocate of the position we're taking, I could see a world in which this room was just kind of thrown in there because Manson needed to, like, fill out the book. You know, like his publisher was like, you can't just have a 43-page book. You know, you need to like stick with the 5s. And so he threw this one in and that other one that just have one way out. There's really like, if the rooms are supposed to clue themselves, like, what like kind of like, can you like, so you have a puzzle room that has one door and an arm that's kind of like, it can't even like fully point towards the door, but because it doesn't even care enough to like lift a finger, it has to just kind of like limply be like, that way. Can't you see there's just one door? It's a very lazy room, and I think Manson maybe felt that when he made the room. That's why he has the couch, and you know, but still, since he had to work so hard on every picture because he's doing these woodcuts or whatever, he like put one of the cushions right by the door. Like someone would just lazily end up putting a cushion by the door. That's someone placed that cushion there just to, because I think that's his message that, you know, I know this looks lazy, but I did put some work and thought into it. You know, it's for work. That's why I have the suit up there.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you here. I don't think he put enough work into it. I think a lot of the art in this is just straight up lazy. The balls of trash, especially, like on that box to the right of the couch.
Yeah.
It's really just scribbles. He hasn't thought too much about what that trash would actually be.
Yeah, no, I see
also,
that.
the room is very dirty. It's a real mess. The couch is falling apart. Everything's covered in like random dust and stuff. It's not a pleasant place to be. If you went down to your basement and it were like this, you would just go back up.
Right, and since you would go back up, it doesn't make sense that so there's that board to the right, and this kind of goes with the cushion as well. There's that stick that's sitting against
yeah,
the wall.
well, the perspective is a bit off there. I think that might be a mistake.
The stick shouldn't even be there.
Well, it doesn't look like it should be supported if it were actually placed the way it's drawn. There's
Right, it would kind of slide down.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't even notice that before. It's at an angle.
If you look at how close the top of it is to that doorway versus the bottom of it, it's clearly leaning forward towards the viewer a lot.
Yeah, he's just hitting his deadline with this one.
Yeah, now the totem in the center is a striking image. Nobody's really found a good puzzle interpretation of that. I mean, beyond the obvious Def Leppard interpretation. But we haven't found anything that really ties it into navigating the maze. I know there have been attempts at this, but I don't think any of them are actually convincing. I don't know. It's possible that at some point we'll figure out something about this room that serves to justify its inclusion in maze, but right now we just haven't gotten that.
Yeah, well, I think the thing that justifies it is that it got the book published. I think if you
Edson obviously likes triangular numbers, and he had 45 rooms.
Yeah.
This is one of them.
Right. So it had to include more stuff, more content, just to kind of fill it out. It's fluff. It's fluff, just like the couch cushions.
Maybe you should have put Bird in it.
That's true. Would have got a mention in one of the best maze software out there.
Yeah.
Are you done stomping on my favorite room?
I think so, yeah.
Jumping on the
I
couch.
think that's our last segment for tonight.
I think that's true.
Yeah, well, we've been Mazecast, episode number 243. Thank you for joining us, and
Thank you.
until next week, keep writing the mazes.